Good day to you. My name's Neil Sutton and I am broadcasting today from another Christian church on the North Wales coast, United Kingdom. I've been thinking, how much does God love people? Well, when we look at scriptures like 1 John 4:16 in the New Testament, it says that God is love. So I've written a small poem, I say small, it's 150 verses long, called God Knows You and Loves You, which I'd like to read for you today, and I hope it's a blessing to you today. So, God knows you and loves you. If you are saved or unsaved, God knows you and loves you. If you are tall or small, God knows you and loves you. If you are fat or thin, God knows you and loves you. If you are black or white, God knows you and loves you. If you're old or young, God knows you and loves you. If you're a man or a woman, God knows you and loves you. If you're European or Asian, God knows you and loves you. If you're rich or poor, God knows you and loves you. If you're employed or out of work, God knows you and loves you. If you're married or single, God knows you and loves you. If you're educated or uneducated, God knows you and loves you. If you're gregarious or a loner, God knows you and loves you. If you're happy or sad, God knows you and loves you. If you are calm or a hothead, God knows you and loves you. If you're in a family or on your own, God knows you and loves you. If you're with parents or without, God knows you and loves you. If you're reading the Holy Bible or the Quran, God knows you and loves you. If you're communicating by email or crayon, God knows you and loves you. If you're into reality or fantasy, God knows you and loves you. If you are the psychiatrist or a mental patient, God knows you and loves you. If you're on a bicycle or in a wheelchair, God knows you and loves you. If you're full of light or full of darkness, God knows you and loves you. If you're politically correct or couldn't give a toss, God knows you and loves you. If you're very humble or always bragging, God knows you and loves you. If you're faithful or always flirting, God knows you and loves you. If you are loving discipline or hate knowledge, God knows you and loves you. If you're full of love or full of hate, God knows you and loves you. If you're fearing God or doing your own thing, God knows you and loves you. If you're married for 80 years or have had 6 wives, God knows you and loves you. If you are trustworthy or a con artist, God knows you and loves you. If you are in Valley Bottom or on Mountain Peak, God knows you and loves you. If you are straight or gay, God knows you and loves you. If you're a homosexual or a lesbian, God knows you and loves you. If you're blind or sighted, God knows you and loves you. If you're backsliding or forward running, God knows you and loves you. If you are a leader or being led, God knows you and loves you. If you're honest or a liar, God knows you and loves you. If you're bald or hairy, God knows you and loves you. If you're into classical music or rock and roll, God knows you and loves you. If you're accommodated or homeless, God knows you and loves you. If you're fully functional or handicapped, God knows you and loves you. If you're well fed or starving, God knows you and loves you. If you're bitter and twisted or content with life, God knows you and loves you. If you are a deep sea diver or an astronaut, God knows you and loves you. If you are the king or a subject, God knows you and loves you. If you're into herbal medicine or acupuncture, God knows you and loves you. If you're able to fast for 40 days or you've eaten all the pies, God knows you and loves you. If you're living in the city or in the countryside, God knows you and loves you. If you are generous or mean, God knows you and loves you. If you're confident or a bag of nerves, God knows you and loves you. If you're sane or crazy, God knows you and loves you. If you're just being born or on your last breath, God knows you and loves you. If you're free or locked up, God knows you and loves you. If you're attractive or repulsive, God knows you and loves you. If you're a preacher or a teacher, God knows you and loves you. If you're for Liverpool or Everton, God knows you and loves you. If you're law-abiding or a hooligan, God knows you and loves you. If you're careful or reckless, God knows you and loves you. If you're into substance abuse or are drug-free, God knows you and loves you. If you're an addict or in control, God knows you and loves you. If you're a boozer or a teetotaler, God knows you and loves you. If you're gentle or violent, God knows you and loves you. If you're an abuser or being abused, God knows you and loves you. If you're dressing sensibly or you're a transvestite, God knows you and loves you. If you're smelling real bad or have a pleasant fragrance, God knows you and loves you. If you're popular or despised, God knows you and loves you. If you're a rocket scientist or work the till in Asda, God knows you and loves you. If you're a born-again Baptist or a jolly Jehovah's Witness, God knows you and loves you. If you're for Manchester United or Accrington Stanley, God knows you and loves you. If you're North American or South American, God knows you and loves you. If you're a conservative evangelical or a radical Hindu, God knows you and loves you. If you're eating meat and 2 veg or a spicy vindaloo, God knows you and loves you. If you're grinding your crankshaft or cleaning your pistons, God knows you and loves you. If you're well boring or have a great sense of humour, God knows you and loves you. If you are Russian or Australian, God knows you and loves you. If you're waxing down your surfboard or polishing your Zimmer frame, God knows you and loves you. If you are Jew or Gentile, God knows you and loves you. If you are guilty or innocent, God knows you and loves you. If you're an illegal squatter or lord of the manor, God knows you and loves you. If you're a man of war or a man of peace, God knows you and loves you. If you're always fighting or have never clenched your fist, God knows you and loves you. If you are the grand worshipful master or just a grassroots member, God knows you and loves you. If you're as thick as 2 short planks or have an IQ of 180, God knows you and loves you. If you're dancing with joy or are frozen with paralysis, God knows you and loves you. If you're 1 pickle short of a sandwich or have all your marbles, God knows you and loves you. If you're down or up, God knows you and loves you. If you're a civilian or in the forces, God knows you and loves you. If you're wounded or healthy, God knows you and loves you. If you're remembered or forgotten, God knows you and loves you. If you're well paid or on benefits, God knows you and loves you. If you're a rapist or a murderer, God knows you and loves you. If you're on the internet or don't even have electricity, God knows you and loves you. If you are pure or a sexual deviant, God knows you and loves you. If you're on medication or getting by without, God knows you and loves you. If you're super active or lazy, God knows you and loves you. If you're crying or laughing, God knows you and loves you. If you're childless or have children, God knows you and loves you. If you're fast asleep or wide awake, God knows you and loves you. If you're cruel or kind, God knows you and loves you. If you're dirty or clean, God knows you and loves you. If you are a resident or an alien, God knows you and loves you. If you're a professor or a road sweeper, God knows you and loves you. If you're holy or a prostitute, God knows you and loves you. If you're a thespian or a porno star, God knows you and loves you. If you're celibate or a nymphomaniac, God knows you and loves you. If you're able to keep your tongue or are always gossiping, God knows you and loves you. If you are left wing or right wing, God knows you and loves you. If you are driving or are a pedestrian, God knows you and loves you. If you are walking or running, God knows you and loves you. If you are mainlining heroin or having a sherbet fountain, God knows you and loves you. If you're having a pint or just a brew, God knows you and loves you. If you're a part-time shoplifter or a law-abiding citizen, God knows you and loves you. If you're a voyeur of Mayfair or a reader of the Times, God knows you and loves you. If you're in jeans and t-shirt or a pinstripe suit, God knows you and loves you. If you're a hacker or a tracker, God knows you and loves you. If you're a Montana man or a Wyoming woman, God knows you and loves you. If you're stable or unstable, God knows you and loves you. If you're highly qualified or have never sat an exam, God knows you and loves you. If you're a user of credit cards or always pay cash, God knows you and loves you. If you're 100% human or part prosthetic, God knows you and loves you. If you're a tax evader or a tax fiddler, God knows you and loves you. If you're on a magic mushroom trip or don't touch narcotics, God knows you and loves you. If you're in the Cub Scouts or Al-Qaeda, God knows you and loves you. If you're patting the pastor or bashing the bishop, God knows you and loves you. If you're choking the chicken or tickling the winkle, God knows you and loves you. If you're singing pitch perfect or totally out of key, God knows you and loves you. If you're on 100 a day or your lungs are tar-free, God knows you and loves you. If you're always watching television or you have a functional life, God knows you and loves you. If you are the CEO or the apprentice, God knows you and loves you. If you're of Harvard or Oxford education, God knows you and loves you. If you're Protestant or Roman Catholic, God knows you and loves you. If you're a genius at superstring theory or can't add the shopping bill, God knows you and loves you. If you're African or Chinese, God knows you and loves you. If you're playing bass for AC/DC or sax like Grover Washington Jr., God knows you and loves you. If you're fishing for salmon or trawling for cod, God knows you and loves you. If you're getting the red card or taking a penalty, God knows you and loves you. If you're turning 5 degrees to port or 10 degrees to starboard, God knows you and loves you. If you are lion taming or afraid of spiders, God knows you and loves you. If you're having an affair or think you need to confess, God knows you and loves you. If you are a creationist or an evolutionist, God knows you and loves you. If you're whiter than white or have a long criminal record, God knows you and loves you. If you're in MI5 or MFI, God knows you and loves you. If you're a Republican or a Democrat, God knows you and loves you. If you're a member of Plaid Cymru or the Sons of Owen Glyndŵr, God knows you and loves you. If you're getting nothing for Christmas or a Rolex watch, God knows you and loves you. If you're religious or an atheist, God knows you and loves you. If you're a voodoo priest or a rainbow witch, God knows you and loves you. If you're a witch doctor or a high priestess, God knows you and loves you. If you are of the day or of the night, God knows you and loves you. If you're a Satanist or believe in God, God knows you and loves you. The bottom line is, God knows you and loves you. But if you are doing something that you should not be doing, then stop. Get your focus back on Jesus Christ and do the right thing. God bless you. Take care.